Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got another weekly update video for you all as I'm sitting about 8 weeks out from Powerlifting America Nationals. And at 8 weeks here, we finally pivoted into some new exercises. So I had a complete kind of switch up in my training, and that'll get me prepared for this home stretch into the competition. So first thing you'll notice if you've been following along over the past weeks or months, you'll notice these are kind of all new variations, but still keeping close to my core competencies as far as squat, bench, and deadlift go overall. So on day one, we've rotated to buffalo bar squats. These felt really strong. The one thing about the buffalo bar that safety bar squats that I had been doing, where those differ, the buffalo bar tends to force me into a more upright position. So it definitely taxes my quads a whole lot more than like my hamstrings and my posterior chain. So because of that transition, I certainly got more sore earlier, and I held on to some of that soreness throughout the week, but that's totally fine, and it's to be expected with such a transition, like a pivot week into new exercises. So if there's something you all can take away from this, just understand that whenever you're switching into a new regime of exercises or a new block, you're going to struggle at first, or at least be a little extra sore while you're finding your footing. So along with the buffalo bar squats that I had, Bill also implemented tempo RDLs, which were, to put bluntly, very difficult. They're supposed to be 5 seconds down and 5 seconds back up tempo, and they were supposed to be 4 sets of 8, but honestly, I only got 2 sets of 6, and then I really pushed myself for 2 sets of 7. So I'm actually showing 2 of these sets to kind of emphasize how you can make a lightweight really difficult, and this is a great example of that. And keep an eye out. I do plan to make a video probably this week emphasizing the difference between muscular and systemic fatigue. I would say this week I definitely felt much more muscular fatigue, being sore from the change in the tempos than I did my central nervous system. And I'll talk about that once I get around to the end of the week lifting here. But overall, I think we're going to have to stick with 315 pounds for this exercise. And hopefully tomorrow, which is going to be my day one of the next week, I can come around and get these for the full sets of 8 that I was supposed to get overall. I would say the weak point that I was having here was actually my hands. So you'll notice I'm wearing the SBD wrist straps, but you still have to hold on to that bar. And whenever it's supposed to be 5 seconds down and 5 seconds up, even 7 reps is something like 70 seconds of holding onto the bar straight and changing direction. So, lots to work on. I would say the buffalo bar squats went really well. I was pleased with those, but I'll definitely kind of catch my groove as I'm getting used to my form on day one. Now, as you're probably familiar, I've been dealing with a slight left bicep tweak in my upper bicep, and we had to make some adjustments to still be able to bench press. That's kind of the struggle here. We're 8 weeks out. We don't want to push anything further into an injury territory. I would say right now it's just certainly a tweak. So we're playing around with pin press on day 2. You'll notice I had to play around with the height of the bench and where these pins were to get them right about where it's just above this discomfort zone that I was having. You'll notice the weights move really fast. That's not really the focus, at least for this week. I was just wanting to get back to benching and staying in that pain-free kind of zone. So we'll certainly push that up for next week. And I think that's the range that I'll stick in for a little bit to try and heal this bicep. Now on to day 4. So we were doing tempo eccentrics on deadlifts. Now we're switching to a double pause format. So once again, keeping the weights really light. That's been the theme for this week for deadlift, but double pause. So supposed to pause 2 inches off the ground, a couple inches below my knee, and then explode to the top. Obviously, 385 pounds, moved very fast. Definitely happy with how that went. Now on to the big day. So day 4 didn't have as many pivots as some of the other days. We didn't switch exercises too much except for bench press. But going in, I will say, because of the different exercise selection, I was certainly a whole lot more sore and fatigued just in my musculature. So central nervous system wise, you'll notice these move really fast, like 585, still as fast as it's ever moved. You'll see 675 here, also moves very fast. But you'll also notice my descent is a little bit more tentative. And that was because my quads were still just extremely sore, and even my hamstrings from those double pause deadlifts on day 3. So descending, it was just a matter of like that burn and soreness stretching in the back of my head. But I had the strength there, so it's just a matter of, making sure everything, I don't push it too hard and strain a muscle. But, good news is that didn't happen, and I think some of that soreness is going to dissipate, as it just kind of has to do with my body not being used to some of these newer exercises overall. So my top single for the day on squats was 715 pounds. As you'll see, this moves much like a warm-up, and it puts it in perspective to where 715 pounds is right around what has been an opener in the past. And now I'm not having to stress having 700 plus pounds on my back, right? I can be a little bit sore and coming off of a different week, and it still move, extremely fast, almost like a warm-up, so to speak. So ready to push that forward. And then the main change up for squats for this week was we were doing back off singles. Now we're doing some triples. So this is my second set of 3 with 635 pounds. At this point, I was definitely starting to slow down a little bit just from both the soreness and the work. But as you'll notice, these still move really well. And, it's a good starting point to continue with the block to push these triples as well. So we'll go ahead and watch these. 635 used to be that kind of point where I would get nervous about a weight on my back. And I guess I'm glad to say we're beyond that point now. I would say 700 pounds, 675 is the new 635. So always good signs of progress. Now on to bench. So like I had mentioned before, we're trying to still be able to bench press while not pushing this bicep. And the main thing that bothers the bicep is actually the stretch at the bottom of the bench press. So on this day, we're doing some spoto press. And I kind of just laddered my way up. I did some sets at 335, and then I did a few sets at 355 here. Just triples, spoto press, pausing it right about where that discomfort is. Like I had said, moving very fast. I thought about moving the weight up, but, overall it's not worth it. Just be patient. I'm going to march myself forward. Next week it can be even heavier, and I'll be even more recovered. And that's the thing with switching exercises. I mentioned it the other day in my, confusing the muscle video. shout out to that. If you haven't seen it already, go ahead and check that out on my channel. But every time you switch exercises, your body has to adapt to that new movement pattern, and you're going to have a couple weeks of it being awkward and slow. And then we kind of closed off the week with 2 singles at 665. Absolutely flew. I think that was a matter of lessening the weight on my deadlift variations, and the soreness didn't come into play nearly as much because it was muscular rather than systemic. And then here we are. I had 2 back off sets of 3 with 585 pounds, moved as fast as it looked, and closing off the week on a high note. So thank you all for watching. As always, I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, happy lifting.